All right, I've got about 1,800 hours into that 67 GTO behind me, but there's still something missing, cup holders. And why do old muscle cars not have cup holders? It's because you need both hands on the wheel or you'll likely die. The steering and the suspension on those old cars are pretty sketch, and we'll get into that. So to fix that, we're gonna install this level 2 QA1 suspension kit, and then maybe we can get around to a console with some cup holders, because we'll be driving nice and straight down the road. Here we go. Oh man, those are nice. For somebody who wants to drive a car, overdrive is a must. Beep, boop, boop, beep, boop, 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 beep. Installing our QA1 stage 2, then we'll send it off to an alignment. Oh, that is nice! All right, so when we started our GTO build, we got a box of parts, and in those parts were all new bushings for our control arms, new ball joints, and me being the Dutchman, I didn't want to throw anything away or not use it, so we rebuilt the original stock control arms for the GTO and ran with it for a couple years. These have about 5,000 kilometers on it, and there leaves some room for improvements. When we were trying to keep up with Rob Ferretti and all his supercars, we'd be an hour late and stressed to the max because we're going as fast as we can with the GTO. It's kind of all over the road. And we want to thank QA1 for noticing that and setting us up with a stage 2 kit for the GTO. So this would be an A-body GM, and that applies to El Caminos, Chevelles, anything, but they've got kits for every body of GM and past that. So there's a couple of reasons why these are 100 times better than the original stamped ones. And the main reason is that back in 1967, GM thought it would be a good idea to put about 0-degree caster in their vehicles. Now, caster is your relation of your upper ball joint to your bottom ball joint. So if the car is moving this way, if it's straight up and down, you've got 0-degree caster. If the upper is farther behind the lowers, you've got positive caster. If it's negative, that means that the top ball joint is ahead of the lower ball joint. So imagine your shopping cart going down and you're seeing the wheels, that is negative caster. QA1 solves that issue by putting a 3 to 4 degree positive caster built into their control arms. They've also added a degree of camber. You can do negative camber by shimming this against the bracket, which will pull the upper control arm closer to the inside of the car. And what that does is tilt your tire in. And camber is important for when you're turning, because as the body wants to roll naturally because the weight is getting shifted, you want your tires to stay perpendicular to the road, so you've got the full contact patch of the tire so you can make it around that corner. So this is a very nice setup for a driving car. We want to go out and drive it, obviously. We are after a nice, comfortable drive without white knuckling it when you go over 50. So let's yank the old stuff off and throw this on. We don't need any special tools. The hoist is nice, but you can do this in your driveway with some jack stands on a weekend, no problem. Here we go. I would take your nut off. You can use a pickle fork. That'll wreck your boot, but if you're not reusing it, that's fine. I just don't have one. Or you can take a pry bar on it and just hit it right here. And it will drop down. If you don't have the nut on there, you're dropping a bar and hitting a knee, and that's good comedy. You can just do the one. You can drop the other one when you're not having to beat your nice car. So we can drop the shock down. There's nothing wrong with the Aldens. We really like them for the comfort, but we just want those control arms. Here we go. Doesn't hurt to put a little bit of never sees just on the top of these rubbers, because you're gonna want to shave them off, but don't, because they do fit in between. They're just a little bit tight. So this is the front shock. When we're assembling it, we want our lock ring first, then we want the one with the collar, which would house our spring, and then a washer in between that. Now, we want to never seize this, as it's an aluminum housing, because we don't want any galling. So if you're fighting and you're trying to lift the car up and you're turning on this, it's gonna start binding and then lock up on you. So never seizes your friend, and so is gloves, because it gets everywhere. Now, if you're installing this new, you do wanna be careful that when the weight of the car is on your coil, it's in the recommended height of the shock. If it is all the way down and you only have an inch of travel before it bottoms out, you're gonna feel that. It's gonna end up being a clunk while you're driving, and you're gonna swear that something is broken or whatnot. All that's happening is your shock is bottoming out. Also, if you are an inch from the top and it doesn't have room to rebound, you're gonna hear a clunk. So make sure that you have the shock ideally in the middle. You can look at the part numbers and it'll tell you whatever your ideal length is with the weight of the car on top of it. So when you get these, they come assembled with the support to put them into the stock lower control arms, but because we are putting them into QA1's control arms, we're gonna pull this out and replace it with this little ball and socket. So we have to pull this rubber out after we pull the snap ring off. Before we assemble it, we do want to put a little bit of never seize on there, just so that we don't have any galling when we go to raise and lower our height. We're going to bring these all the way to the bottom so that we can actually attach our shock to the mount on the car. If we have the shock all the way tight, you're gonna have to put the weight of the car in to compress it. So it's easier to install it with the shock down and then lift up on the car and adjust this afterwards to whatever ride height you want. So the little skinny one goes on the bottom with the lip up. That will push up against here and we'll lock it. And then we want to put our washer in there, and doesn't hurt to put a little bit of never seize in there as well. All right, we got a cup, we got a rubber, then we put it in the mount, then we get a rubber, then we get another cup, and then we get the thick nut, and then we get the thin nut to lock on. That's just for demonstration, that's how it goes. And then the shock, you get your big shock, that goes over top, and the small end of the big shock fits nicely around that collar. So let's pull this out, and you're gonna destroy it, but that's okay, because you know you got nice new, oh, that's so tight. Nice new control arms. It's like a tiny dab and it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So you get 2 jam nuts and this collar for the tie rod end, much better than that tinny little piece of crap that's stock. So just keep in mind that one of them is left-hand thread, one of them is right-hand thread, and your collar will only go on one way as well. Now it's best to measure this before you take it apart and put it back roughly where it came from. But regardless, this is going to alignment as soon as this install is done. And we want about a 1/4 inch toe in, meaning that the front of the tire is about a 1/4 inch closer together to that front of the tire compared to the back. Try that for now. All right, we've got our uppers and lower control arms on there, our shocks, and now it's time to talk sway bars. Now, there's a few things we need to get out of the way, and that's mainly the confusion about sway bars. Believe it or not, this is a sway bar. Now that is not to be confused with an anti-sway bar, which is this. Now, you guys might be thinking, I don't even know what a sway bar is. I want a roll bar. Now this is a roll bar, but that can't be confused with an anti-roll bar, which is what this is. So, now we got them all laid out on the table here. We can figure out the differences between all of them. And there are no differences. Whatever you tell the person you want to buy, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get this bar, which connects one side to the other side and keeps the car from rolling when you go around corners. Now, we talked about camber with keeping your tires flat as you're going around the corner, but the car wants to roll. So if you imagine this bar as your arms, you're trying to, as one is going up, the other one's kind of going down, and all it wants to do is keep that car square to the road as you're going around the corner. So these are pretty cool. These are actually lighter than stock, believe it or not, so you're back into wheelie territory with your girlfriend. So I know you're excited about that. What I'm excited about is that this kit comes with a front sway bar and a rear anti-roll bar. So we'll install those, and easy peasy, here we go. Okay, so a nice thing about the sway bar too is, like all the other parts, it's greasable, but it does come with a lube to put around the bushings just so you don't get that squeakiness going down the road. So we'll put a little bit of lube on there, put these in, basically just bolt it in. There's threaded nuts in your frame. I have one good one left, and I need to fish a nut on the top of all my other ones. So this is going to take me a little bit. We're going to star wipe, and this is going to be hanging because you will do a much faster job than I will. Here we go. Yes, lots. No more. So I can get one finger in there and that's it. So there we go. Magnet.
That will actually let go when you want it to let go.
Now, impact will probably grab that. I'm gonna leave it loose just until I have that in case I gotta slide it back and forth. I'll do the other side, same thing.
This thing now has more grease fittings than my Silverado.
Okay, trailing arms come in the kit, very straightforward. But we do need to talk about them because they have their definite benefits. They got the nice polyurethane bushing, so nice and tight, a little stiffer than stock, and then your mounting holes for the brackets that will hold your anti-roll bar. These are the lowers, these are the uppers. Now the uppers, this will be the worst part of the job is trying to get the old bushings out of the differential. So if you have your diff out, because you're doing work on it and you might want to do this, I would highly suggest buying these separate from the rest of the kit if even if you don't plan on doing the rest of the kit, and that's because these will come in the stock length, but if you do any transmission work or anything later on, what's handy about these is you can actually tilt your differential, and that's important because even us, we have the 4X transmission in there. We originally had the Turbo 400, but when we were trying to race supercars, we couldn't keep up. So we need an overdrive transmission. Just makes for a much nicer driving car. But the 4X is slightly larger, and I didn't have to bash my transmission tunnel, but I had to tilt the transmission down just slightly so it wouldn't rub on a couple bolts on the top. So I can tilt my diff to make up for that pinion angle and still have my U-joints phased. So what you have at the front of your U-joint, you want at the back so that both U-joints cancel each other out. If you don't, you'll end up with a vibration or you'll chew through U-joints. So remove the bolts, pop these in, and it's about the easiest part of the install. So here we go. Yeah, so I never did anything with the lower and the upper trailing arms. Take a look at this. This was just after 5,000 kilometers. It was not like that when we put it in, but I got a gap here. This thing is so tinny and crappy that definitely time for an upgrade. Here we go. Our upper trailing arms removed. You can see how shitty these are. It's not supposed to have you're not supposed to be able to see through that. So what we need to do is pull out the bushing that came in here. Now you can't use a ball joint press, but they're pretty big and bulky. You're gonna scratch everything. So if you got a piece of 2.5-inch exhaust that just fits around the bushing and a heavy washer, or even just a flat plate, drill a 1/2-inch hole through it, stick up some threaded rod through there, and then another washer on this side, and then you can pull the bushing into your exhaust and out it comes. And you can do the opposite when you're pulling it in, pressing that bushing back in again. So put the bushing in here, and then tighten it in, and Bob's your uncle. Might have to play with it a little bit, make some custom pieces just because it's a little tight, pulling it back in again, but easy peasy, here we go. So I tried pushing the whole bushing out, and I did move it a little bit, but there's too much paint and rust and crap, so it binds up. So I just pull the rubber outside of the bushing, and then take a punch and cave this in, and it'll pop right out. Here we go. tool Milwaukee hasn't been able to duplicate without air. Okay, so the rear end is a lot easier once you've got your old suspension off. Basically, you want to support the car, which I'm doing on my table, and then supporting the axle, which I'm doing with my hoist. Then you can raise and lower the car up and down to get your suspension bits off. So basically, undoing your shocks, well, your factory shocks will allow you to lift the car off of the springs. Once those are gone, then we can get to replacing these sloppy lower trailing arms. We got our nice new ones there. The sway bar, or the anti-roll bar, connects to the holes in the back, so put the holes to the back. And other than that, it's pretty straightforward. So all we're doing is stiffening this up, getting rid of all of the slop while adjusting the height on the shocks to get our desired ride height. Here we go. Okay, so we're on to the rear shocks, and this is pretty cool because the kit comes with a bracket. It's super easy to install. You do have to drill one hole, but when you take the bracket apart, the neat thing about it is that there's multiple spots to put your lower bracket, so you can raise and lower your shock according to however you like it. On top of that, this bracket is also offset, so you can actually get even more settings if you put it together this way. Now, you can adjust your collars and your spring to get a certain amount of height, but you got to remember that you have to stay within your operating range of the shock. You can't jack it all the way to the top because you want extra height, or you want to fit these fat tires in there. And then have the shock bouncing at the top of its stroke all the time. Same thing, you don't want it all the way to the bottom and set your car here. If this is the weight of the car sitting on there, every time you hit a bump, you're gonna bottom this out. So you can compensate for that, either go slam it to the ground or jack it sky high by adjusting the bracket to a setting roughly where you like it, and then figuring out where you want to put your collar with the weight of the car on it while staying within your shock range. So let's throw these on the car, and then we can put the car back down on the ground and measure all four corners and start seeing where we want the stance. Here we go. I just gotta double check everything's tight, but that's it anyway. And QA1, you guys really got the sticker placement bang on. It's really easy to tell if a part's upside down because the sticker is not visible. Every piece, bang, right there. Some good advertising there, QA1, good for you. Okay, so that's it for installing our QA1 Stage 2. Now, I do want to say that if you don't want to put the entire kit on at once, or you want to do it in pieces, they're able to work with you. You can do one piece at a time. Say you upgrade the transmission first, you definitely want to grab those upper trailing arms and then just pick away at the whole kit as you see fit. That's a good way to also gauge what each piece does. From here, we'll be setting up our ride height. We're basically just playing with it, lowering and raising the springs. Then we'll send it off to an alignment. There's a lot to setting it up after you've installed it, but that's the fun of it, going for a drive and seeing what you like. there's supposed to be positive caster and those A-arms, I think.
Yeah, oh no, we got it.
Yeah, okay.
It's not a problem. I'm just trying to get them working together.
Right.
For the crown of the road. So I'm really close there now.
Okay. Now, what's your opinion on a string line alignment?
Well, any kind of line's better than anything.
Right on. Okay, first road test. It's been raining all morning, the road's dry. Dust on the car, which is kind of shameful, but we'll take it nice and slow, make sure it goes through all the gears. We got a nicely balanced drive shaft in there, everything's nice and tight. First gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear. Woo! We got overdrive. All right, as long as nothing catches fire. Should have definitely brought a fire extinguisher. But, oh man, that is just nice. Oh shit, yeah. Oh, that is nice. Woo-hoo-hoo, torque converter locked up. And we're just like idling along. Oh shit. I love this car. Oh. And this is absolutely awesome. It drives so much better. Unbelievable. I'm doing 100 kilometers an hour at under 2,000 RPM. Love it. Literally impossible to keep dust free, but let's try. Alright, coming up to Hoogie's place. This is the first time that he gets to drive it. So we'll see how this goes. The sniper's, the idle's still acting up on me. So she's idling a bit high. The car just wants to go. It just wants to move. But this will be a treat. This is Hoogie's first long drive in it. So
Is it like
head back to Dumbo.
Straight back is
Yeah, you're indeed there now. What do you think?
drives good.
It drives.
It's nice having the gauges to know how fast you're going there.
Yeah. Like it drives completely new.
It drives like a modern car.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's as luxurious as my van. But you know, it's nice.
Absolutely everything is new with the best of the best. It's got a tight Tight ratio steering box. A couple squeaks and rattles inside. The hood doesn't pop up randomly anymore.
I know.
So that's good.
Have you gotten to the end of the list though of like everything you want to do?
Back seat. This winter we'll take the whole interior and like tighten everything up and glue everything down.
Yeah,
and no more.
Let's take it all apart.
Take it all apart.
Right down to
just,
like
no, just the inside.
down to metal.
Just the inside.
Man, this is getting every second you drive it just gets smoother, right?
It's unbelievable the difference. If I remember white knuckling it before, the entire time with Rob Ferretti, now it's just, man, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do the trip again, because now we could actually keep up. Like 55, when the torque converter just locks, is 100 kilometers an hour. So when people do 90, it's like not happy. It's like, I want to go.
What's your rev at, or was the revs at like 90?
Before 90 was like 3,500 RPM. Now we're at 2,000.
And you're just basically like just
cruising. Yeah, yeah. The money, like the fuel was just insane. I can't believe the ride quality, just the transmission and the suspension, all the difference in the world.
Oh yeah. 100 OP. Oh, it's just nice.
Yeah. So now you're doing about 95. But just like you can let go of the steering wheel, no vibrations, no nothing.
Yeah.
I don't think my wife knows exactly how much we spent on this car, but let's keep that a secret, or let's make that the next video. How much did we spend on it? All right, so I think next one, I think that's about it. I think if you guys want a video on how much it actually costs, we can get all the numbers together. It's kind of scary, and like I said, it costs a lot more for Canadians to do it, because if it costs $5,000 in the States, it costs us 10 by the time it's here.
Yep.
So,
yeah, that's true. Import fees and everything.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, stick around for that video. Other than that, I think we're kind of toning down the GTO vids. There's not a whole lot left to do it other than some epic road trips, but
I don't know what else you could do.